I always trusted Vanessa. For 10 years, I believed every word that came out of her mouth. She was a powerhouse, one of Miami's top luxury real estate agents, always closing deals, always working late. I never doubted her, because why would I? We had built a life together. But lately something felt off. It started with the small things. She stopped checking in when she was out. She ignored my texts for hours, but was glued to her phone whenever I was around. She started dressing up more, wearing perfume even when she wasn't meeting clients. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was just being paranoid. But then, she started coming home too happy. Not just satisfied from a successful sale, giddy. Like she had a secret. I tried to push it down. I wanted to trust her. But doubt has a way of digging into your mind and refusing to let go. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. Vanessa was supposed to be at a high-profile open house, showcasing a $15 million waterfront estate to investors. She had spent the whole week hyping it up, the biggest sale of my career, she called it. She had the whole thing planned out, a live-streamed virtual tour for high-end buyers, an exclusive guest list, strictly professional. Or so I thought. That night I got a text, an anonymous number. Check the open house. She's not just selling houses. My stomach dropped. My hands clenched around the phone. I stared at the message, my mind racing. This had to be a joke. Some spam text. Some jealous competitor trying to stir up drama. Then a second text came in. A photo. Vanessa. In the house. In a man's arms. Not just any man. Greg Whitman. A wealthy investor, one of her biggest clients. Married. Powerful. Dangerous. I felt my heartbeat hammering in my chest. This wasn't paranoia anymore. This was real. I grabbed my keys and left the house without a second thought. I barely remember the drive to the mansion, my mind clouded with rage and disbelief. Every red flag, every warning sign, every unanswered call, it all made sense now. Vanessa wasn't just busy. She wasn't just working late. She was cheating. I pulled up to the estate, my car blending in with the expensive ones parked outside. The event was in full swing. Guests moved in and out of the house, sipping champagne, admiring the view. The live stream cameras were set up on tripods, broadcasting Vanessa's perfect sales pitch to wealthy clients around the world. But I wasn't here for the show. I was here for the truth. I slipped past the guests, heading toward the grand staircase. If Vanessa and Greg were here, they weren't downstairs playing host. They were upstairs, away from the crowd. Somewhere private. My chest tightened as I climbed the steps. I wasn't just about to catch my wife cheating. I was about to end our marriage. And I was going to make sure everyone saw it. I moved through the open house like a shadow, my pulse pounding in my ears. The mansion was packed with investors, socialites, and real estate executives, all sipping expensive wine and pretending to admire the property when they were really here to flaunt their wealth. Vanessa was downstairs somewhere, playing the perfect host, smiling, laughing, lying. I needed to get upstairs without drawing attention. I grabbed a half-full champagne glass from a passing server, took a slow sip, and blended in. The cameras were rolling, broadcasting the open house to Vanessa's wealthy clients through the real estate firm's official livestream. The setup was sleek, tripod stationed at key angles, capturing the house's best features, drone footage streaming in from above. It was professional, polished exactly like Vanessa. Too bad she had no idea it was about to become her worst nightmare. I spotted the security team positioned near the staircase. They were there to keep guests from wandering into the private wings of the house. No doubt Vanessa had given them strict instructions to make sure only certain people had access upstairs. People like Greg Whitman. I clenched my jaw. I had to be smart about this. A confrontation now would get me thrown out, and I needed more than just an argument. I needed proof. I pulled out my phone, discreetly scanning the security setup. It took me less than a minute to find what I was looking for, the control panel for the cameras. The live stream was being managed from a sleek, high-tech tablet sitting on a station near the main living area. Vanessa's assistant was the one monitoring it, adjusting the angles, making sure the stream ran smoothly for their VIP clients watching from around the world. I walked up to the station casually, glancing at the assistant. "Beautiful house, huh?" I said, nodding at the screen. She smiled, distracted. "One of our best listings this year." I pointed at the tablet. Mind if I take a closer look? My wife's always talking about these setups, but I never actually see how they work. She hesitated, but my wedding ring caught her eye, and that was enough to lower her guard. Sure, she said, handing me the tablet. I took it, quickly scanning the interface. Camera angles, microphone feeds, live stream controls. Everything Vanessa had worked so hard to perfect. I slid the tablet back to her. Impressive setup. She grinned. Vanessa makes sure everything runs flawlessly. I smirked. You bet. She turned her attention back to the screen, unaware that in those few seconds, I had hacked into the system from my phone. A simple exploit, easy for someone like me, a software developer, to pull off. The live stream was now under my control. All I needed was something to expose. I made my way toward the stairs, heart pounding. Time to find my wife. The security guards were watching closely, but money talked, and I had come prepared. A quick handshake, a slipped $100 bill, and suddenly, the rules didn't apply to me anymore. Don't stay too long, one of them muttered as I passed. I didn't plan to. The hallway upstairs was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the noise from the party below. The soft glow of chandeliers lit the space, casting long shadows along the walls. I moved quickly, checking doors. Most of them were locked, staged rooms meant for show. But then, at the end of the hall, I found one slightly open. Voices. I inched closer, straining to hear. Relax, a man's voice chuckled. Greg. Vanessa's voice followed, softer, teasing. Someone might walk in. Greg laughed again. That's what makes it exciting, doesn't it? I felt my hands tighten into fists. I had heard enough. I pulled out my phone, activated the hacked live stream, and flipped the feed. The professional, polished video showcasing the estate's marble countertops and high ceilings. Gone. In its place, a live broadcast from my phone's camera, streaming directly to every VIP client watching online. It was time to make Vanessa famous. I stepped into the doorway, my voice calm, controlled. Hope I'm not interrupting. Vanessa froze, half-dressed, tangled in the sheets with Greg. Her eyes widened in horror. Greg bolted upright, scrambling for his clothes. What the hell? I smirked and turned my phone toward them, making sure the camera captured everything. Smile, I said. You're live. Vanessa's face drained of all color. Her eyes flicked between me, Greg, and the phone in my hand, horror sinking in as she realized what was happening. Greg, half-dressed, scrambled to pull on his pants, his face contorted with a mix of anger and humiliation. Eric, Vanessa's voice cracked, trying to force a smile, like she could somehow charm her way out of this. This isn't what it looks like. I let out a sharp laugh. Oh, it's exactly what it looks like. But don't take my word for it. I held up my phone, angling the camera to make sure every single person watching the live stream got a good look at them. Why don't we let your audience decide? Vanessa's eyes flicked to the screen in my hand, and then she saw it. The chat. Messages were pouring in. WTF? Is this real? Who's that guy? This isn't part of the house tour, right? Oh my God, I know his wife. Someone send this to her. Busted LMAO, she lunged forward, reaching for my phone, but I stepped back, keeping it just out of reach. Eric, turn it off. Greg swore under his breath, tugging his shirt over his head. You're insane, man. You can't do this. I turned the camera to him. Oh, I think I can. I gave the screen a slow pan, making sure to capture the tangled sheets, Vanessa's disheveled hair. The guilt smeared all over their faces. The people watching this stream? They're not just random viewers, Greg. They're investors, buyers, your clients. And I'm willing to bet more than a few of them know your wife. Greg's entire body stiffened. I smiled. Oh yeah, she's watching. Vanessa let out a strangled gasp, her hands covering her mouth. Eric, please, you can't do this to me. I tilted my head. You mean like how you did this to me? I stepped toward her, lowering my voice. How long? Vanessa? Tears welled in her eyes, but I wasn't interested in her fake remorse. How long? I repeated, my voice sharp. She swallowed, shaking her head. Eric, it didn't mean anything. I laughed again, this time cold, detached. Didn't mean anything? Funny, because it looks like it meant a hell of a lot. Greg swore again and turned to Vanessa. You told me your marriage was over. Vanessa whipped toward him, panic flashing across her face. Greg, not now. I cut in. Oh, don't stop now, buddy. Please, tell me how my wife lied to you, too. I'd love to hear it. Vanessa's hand trembled as she reached out again, her voice breaking. Eric, please, we can talk about this. I shook my head. We're past talking. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my pocket and tossed it onto the bed. That's your copy of the divorce papers. I signed them this morning. Thought I'd do it in private, but after tonight, it only seems fair that I return the favor. Vanessa's breath hitched. You congratulations, Vanessa. I turned back to my phone, still live on the stream. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd say this open house was a massive success. I mean, we all just got to look at a prime example of what not to do in a relationship. So let's give a round of applause to Vanessa and Greg, Miami's most unprofessional realtor and the sleaziest investor on the market. Then, with one final smirk, I ended the live stream. Vanessa collapsed onto the bed, her hands shaking. Greg stood frozen, his phone buzzing in his pocket. I knew exactly what was happening. His wife was watching. The fallout was already beginning. I pocketed my phone and straightened my jacket. I'll be in touch when the divorce is finalized. Don't bother calling me. Then, without another word, I walked out, leaving them to clean up the mess they created. I walked out of that bedroom without looking back, but the chaos behind me erupted almost instantly. Vanessa's voice rose into a desperate, panicked plea. Greg cursed under his breath, his phone ringing nonstop, no doubt his wife watching the live stream bombshell in real time. But I was done listening, done caring. I strode down the hallway, my heartbeat steady, my mind sharper than it had been in months. The satisfaction of ripping the mask off Vanessa's perfect life was already sinking in, but I knew this was just the beginning. As I made my way back downstairs, the energy in the open house had shifted. People knew. Whispers spread like wildfire, eyes darting toward me, toward the upstairs hallway, toward the now frozen screens that had been streaming the real estate tour. A few guests pretended nothing had happened, clutching their wine glasses, forcing awkward smiles as if they hadn't just witnessed the most brutal public takedown in Miami real estate history. Others weren't as subtle. Some openly murmured, some pulled out their phones, typing furiously, probably spreading the scandal faster than I could walk out the door. Then I spotted her, Vanessa's boss, Linda Carrington. She stood near the center of the room, her sharp green eyes narrowing as she watched me approach. She wasn't just a name in the industry. She was the reason Vanessa even had a career. A woman who built her empire on flawless reputation and ruthless efficiency. And right now, she was livid. Eric, she called, stopping me before I reached the door. A word. I could have kept walking, could have ignored her entirely. But I wanted to hear this. I turned slowly, letting the tension build. Linda, I greeted, my tone neutral. She crossed her arms, voice low but cutting. I assumed that was your doing? I shrugged. Vanessa wanted to put on a show. I just made sure she got the audience she deserved. Linda exhaled sharply, shaking her head. Do you have any idea how much damage you just caused? I smirked. More than Vanessa ever caused me? Doubtful. Her jaw clenched. You just cost her her job. I pretended to consider that. Huh. Imagine that. Before she could say another word, Greg came barreling down the staircase. His shirt was buttoned unevenly, his phone clutched in a white-knuckled grip. His face was red, equal parts fury and panic. Do you have any idea what you've done? He barked. I turned to face him fully, enjoying the way the room went completely silent. Yeah, I said, keeping my voice steady. I exposed you. He took a step closer, fists clenched. My wife knows I cut in, and I'm sure she's already packing your things. I let my smirk return. Maybe she'll even toss them out the window for dramatic effect. Greg's nostrils flared, but he had nothing. No defense. No excuse. Then, before I could walk away, Vanessa came rushing down the stairs. She wasn't composed anymore. The polished, elegant, untouchable real estate queen? Gone. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smudged, her eyes wild with desperation. Eric, please, she gasped, reaching for my arm. You can't just walk away. We need to talk. I pulled back like her touch burned. Talk? Now you want to talk? Tears welled in her eyes. I know I screwed up, but we can fix this. I laughed. Actually laughed. Fix this? Vanessa, I just handed you divorce papers. The only thing left to fix is where you're going to live after you lose everything. She shook her head rapidly, her panic only growing. No, no, no. You don't mean that. You're angry, but I know you still love me. I leaned in, lowering my voice, so only she could hear. I did love you, but that was before I found out you were selling more than houses. Her breath hitched, her face crumbling. I straightened, taking one last look at her. Enjoy your open house, Vanessa. Then I turned and walked straight out the door. I stepped outside into the warm Miami night, inhaling deep, filling my lungs with freedom. The heavy mansion doors shut behind me, sealing Vanessa and her mess inside. For the first time in months, I felt something close to relief. But it wasn't over. Not yet. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out, half expecting Vanessa to have somehow regained enough sense to start begging over text. But it wasn't her. It was Greg's wife. I stared at the screen for a moment before answering. Eric, her voice was sharp, controlled, but underneath it was something cold. Calculating. Tell me you got that entire thing on video. A slow smirk formed on my face. Every second. Good, she said. Send it to me. My lawyers are going to have a field day with this. Greg was done. Vanessa too. There would be no coming back from this. I didn't hesitate. I forwarded the file, my fingers steady. Consider it a parting gift. There was a pause. Then a chuckle. You know, I always thought something was off about her. Guess I was right. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The damage was already done. I ended the call and slid my phone back into my pocket, heading toward my car. I should have driven straight home, should have let the night end here, but something told me Vanessa wasn't done. And I was right, because before I could even start the engine, the mansion doors burst open. Eric. Vanessa's voice rang through the night, desperate, shaking raw. I didn't move. I let her run to the car, let her yank the door open before I finally turned to look at her. She was a mess. Hair tangled, makeup streaked, eyes wide with panic. She had lost the poised, controlled persona she spent years perfecting. And now, she was grasping at anything to stop the inevitable. You can't just leave, she choked out. You can't. Eric, please just talk to me. I stared at her, my face unreadable. Talk? What's left to say, Vanessa? She grabbed my arm, her grip tight, nails digging into my skin. I screwed up, okay? I know I did. But her voice cracked, breaking under the weight of her own guilt, her own failure. But we can fix this. I pried her fingers off me, slowly, deliberately. There is no we anymore. Tears pooled in her eyes, but I wasn't moved. Not anymore. I had given her everything, and she threw it away. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I love you. I scoffed. You love the life I gave you. The stability, the security. But me? I shook my head. You loved yourself more. Her lip trembled, and she shook her head rapidly. No, Eric, please don't do this. You're just angry. I know you still love me. I tilted my head, staring at her like I was looking at a stranger. I loved you. Past tense. She flinched like I had slapped her. But I wasn't done. I reached into my pocket and pulled out one last surprise. A folded piece of paper, the ink still fresh. Her divorce papers. Already signed. I held them up, watching her face crumble. It's over, Vanessa. She clutched my jacket, sobbing now, truly realizing she had lost. No. You don't mean it. You don't. I pried her hands off me again, firmer this time. You made your choice. I stepped into my car, slamming the door shut. Now live with it. Then I started the engine and drove away, leaving her exactly where she deserved to be, standing alone in the dark, watching everything she built collapse. I didn't look in the rearview mirror as I drove away. Vanessa was behind me, exactly where she belonged. The weight of the night should have crushed me, but instead, I felt lighter, like I had been dragging something heavy for years and finally let go. But I wasn't free yet. Not completely. I pulled into my driveway, shut off the engine, and exhaled. The house was dark, silent, a contrast to the chaos I had just left behind. I sat there for a moment, phone in hand, staring at the screen. I needed to be smart. Vanessa wasn't the type to go down quietly. And I was right, because before I could even step inside, my phone buzzed. Vanessa. I let it ring. Then it buzzed again. And again. Then a text. Eric, please talk to me. We need to fix this. Fix? There was nothing left to fix. Another text. You can't just throw away everything we built. You did that yourself. I ignored it and went inside. But before I could even close the door, my phone lit up again. This time, from Vanessa's best friend, Michelle. I sighed, answering. Michelle, don't. Eric, she exhaled, her voice low. She's freaking out. She's at my place, crying her eyes out, saying you humiliated her in front of the whole world. I let out a short laugh. She did that all on her own? Look, I'm not defending her, but Michelle hesitated. Maybe you should just meet her. Let her explain. I cut her off. Explain? Michelle, I caught her in bed with another man. On camera. What exactly do you think she's going to say that changes that? A pause. Then a sigh. Yeah, that's what I thought. She's scared, Eric. Good, I said. She should be. I ended the call. Vanessa could cry to Michelle all night if she wanted. It didn't change the facts. It didn't undo what she did. It didn't erase the betrayal, the lies, the months she spent sneaking around behind my back. She wasn't calling because she was sorry. She was calling because she got caught. And I wasn't playing that game. I pulled up my lawyer's number and sent a text. File the papers first thing in the morning. No more second chances. No more backtracking. Vanessa was officially my past. The next morning, I woke up to another barrage of messages. Some from mutual friends. Some from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Word had spread fast. The video had been clipped and shared on real estate blogs, social media, and even gossip pages. I had exposed Vanessa in real time, and now the whole city knew. I scrolled through the messages. Dude, savage. That was brutal. You okay? I always had a bad feeling about her. Guess I was right. Vanessa called me. She wants to talk. Don't do it, man. I wasn't going to. I had one final thing left to do. I walked into my lawyer's office just after lunch, shaking hands with him as I sat down. Eric, he nodded. Heard about what happened. Didn't realize I was hiring a celebrity, his assistant muttered, smirking. I ignored the comment. Are the papers ready? Signed and filed. She'll get them by tonight. He leaned forward. And don't worry. Vanessa gets nothing. I exhaled, finally truly free. Good. He nodded. Any idea how she's taking it? I smirked. Let's just say she's having the worst week of her life. By the time Vanessa received the divorce papers, the damage had already spread like wildfire. The fallout wasn't limited to just her personal life. It was everywhere. The Miami real estate world was buzzing. Her name passed around in whispers at networking events, her scandal dissected in social media groups, and her former clients dropping her like a bad investment. She had been the golden girl of high-end properties, the agent everyone wanted on their team, until she got caught half-dressed with an investor on a live stream. Now, she was poison. And Greg? Worse. His name was dragging through the mud faster than he could control. His investors were pulling out, his phone calls going unanswered. His wife was making sure of it. I leaned back and watched it all unfold, feeling absolutely no pity. 2 days later, I got the call I was waiting for. I was in my office, going through emails, when my phone buzzed. Linda Carrington. I smirked. Right on time. I answered. Linda. She wasn't in the mood for pleasantries. She's done. I exhaled through my nose. Fired? Fired, blacklisted, finished, Linda confirmed, her voice tight. Clients won't touch her. Listings are being pulled. She tried to do damage control, but after that stunt at the open house, no one wants to be associated with her name. I'll let the moment settle. Vanessa spent her entire career clawing her way to the top of the Miami real estate scene, stepping over anyone in her way. Now she was watching everything she built turn to ash. And Greg? I asked, even though I already knew. Linda let out a low laugh. He's getting gutted. His wife locked down their accounts, froze their assets, and sent a fleet of lawyers after him. And after the live stream, his partners bailed. He's drowning. Good. But here's the real kicker, Linda continued. Vanessa listed you as a reference for a job she's trying to get. I actually laughed at that one. You're kidding. Nope. Some boutique firm in Tampa. She's desperate, Eric. If she doesn't land something fast, she's done for. I could have let her think she had a shot. Let her believe there was a chance, a way to claw her way back. But Vanessa didn't deserve hope. Ignore it, I said flatly. Linda was silent for a beat. Then a small chuckle. Damn. Cold. I smirked. She made her bed. Fair enough. There was a pause. Consider her erased. She hung up, and I sat back, letting it sink in. Vanessa had nothing left. No job. No career. Nobody. No me. And I wasn't done. That night, I was out with friends, finally feeling like myself again, when my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer. Then a text came through. Eric, please. Just talk to me. I stared at it for a moment, feeling nothing. No angel. No sadness. Just finality. Another text followed. I have nowhere to go. Can we at least talk? I slid my phone back into my pocket and took a slow sip of my drink. Vanessa made her choices. Now, she had to live with them. The phone buzzed again. I didn't bother checking. Vanessa was alone. The silence didn't last long. Vanessa had spent years perfecting the art of getting what she wanted, with charm, with persistence, and when that didn't work, with tears. And now she was out of options. It started with texts. First polite, then pleading, then full-blown desperation. Eric, I know you're angry, but we need to talk. Please don't do this. Let's just sit down and figure this out. You're my husband. You can't just walk away like this. Wrong. I could, and I did. I didn't answer a single one. I let the messages pile up, unread, while I went on with my life. And then, 3 days after I had her erased from the real estate world, she showed up at my house. I was coming back from the gym when I saw her car in the driveway. She was sitting on the front steps, shoulders hunched, the polished, perfect version of Vanessa completely gone. Her hair was tied in a messy bun, her face bare of makeup, dark circles beneath her eyes. She looked tired. She looked defeated. And I didn't care. I parked, stepping out slowly, keeping my face blank as I approached. She lifted her head. Eric. I didn't answer, just stared down at her, waiting. Her voice wavered. Can we talk? About what? Her lip trembled. About us. I scoffed. There is no us. She flinched like I had slapped her. I know I'm messed up, she whispered. I was selfish. I was stupid. But I didn't mean to hurt you. I exhaled through my nose. That's supposed to mean something? Yes. Her voice cracked. It means I regret everything. I would take it all back if I could. I shook my head. You don't regret what you did, Vanessa. You regret getting caught. She grabbed my wrist, her fingers ice cold, her desperation bleeding through her touch. Eric, please, she begged. I lost my job. I lost my career. I lost everything. Just give me a chance to fix this. We were good together, weren't we? I yanked my arm away. We were, I admitted, until I realized I was the only one who thought so. Her breath hitched. I crossed my arms. Let me ask you something, I said. If I hadn't caught you, if I hadn't exposed you, would you have stopped? She froze. I tilted my head. Would you? Her silence was all the answer I needed. I let out a low chuckle. That's what I thought. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Eric, I love you. I smirked. The same smirk I had when I walked out of that open house. You loved yourself more. She broke. Right there on my doorstep. Sobs racked her body, her breath hitching between gasps as she clutched her arms around herself. I have nothing left, she whispered, voice shattered. No job. No money. No place to go. I'll let the words settle. Let her drown in the weight of them. Then I spoke. Not my problem. She looked up, pure devastation in her eyes. You don't mean that. I do, I said simply. You made your choices, Vanessa. Now you live with them. She stared at me, waiting for mercy, waiting for the man she used to know to show up, to tell her he'd help, to give her one last safety net. But that man was gone. She made sure of that. So I did the one thing she never expected. I stepped past her, unlocked my front door, and shut it right in her face. She sat outside for hours. I could see her through the window, curled up on the porch, head buried in her arms. But I didn't go to her. I didn't speak to her. Because Vanessa was not my problem anymore. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because of regret. There was none. Not because I missed Vanessa. I didn't. It was the quiet. The kind of silence that settles after a storm. When the winds have died, the debris has stopped flying, and you're left with nothing but the aftermath. Except this time, I wasn't the one picking up the pieces. Vanessa was gone when I woke up. No texts, no voicemails, just an empty driveway and the ghost of her last, desperate plea hanging in the air. But I didn't think about her. Not really. I was thinking about myself, about what came next. Because for the first time in a long time, my life was mine again. A week passed. Then two. I focused on work, on rebuilding everything she had distracted me from. I took on new projects, spent time with friends I hadn't seen in months, reconnected with the version of myself I had let slip away. And Vanessa? She was spiraling. I heard bits and pieces through mutual acquaintances, even though I never asked. She tried applying at another firm, but no one will hire her after what happened. Greg's wife took him to court, completely drained him. He moved to Chicago to start over. Vanessa's living with Michelle now. You know Michelle's patience won't last long. Good. I didn't care where she was, what she was doing, how she was surviving. She was a stranger to me now, and the moment I had proof of it, the day I ran into her at the coffee shop. It was unplanned, completely random. I had just finished a meeting, stopped for a coffee before heading home, and there she was, standing at the counter, waiting for her order, looking like a shell of the woman I used to know. She had lost weight. The confidence she once carried, the sharpness in her gaze, gone. She looked small, tired, like a person still waiting for someone to save her. I stepped up to the counter, standing directly beside her, but I didn't acknowledge her. She turned, froze. Eric. I glanced at her briefly, then looked back at the menu like she was anyone else. Vanessa. Her lips parted slightly, her fingers tightening around her purse strap. How have you been? Good, I said easily. And I meant it. She let out a shaky breath. I saw your name in the paper last week. That development project. Looks like things are going great for you. They are. Silence. I could feel her staring at me, searching for something that wasn't there anymore. Eric, the barista called my name. I turned, grabbed my coffee, and walked away without another word. I didn't need closure. I already had it. And Vanessa? She was just someone I used to know. Vanessa was gone from my life. But the scars she left weren't. That's the thing no one talks about when you walk away from someone who betrayed you. Everyone assumes you move on, that once the weight is lifted, everything magically falls into place. And for the most part, it did. I had my career back, my independence, my peace. But the truth? Trust doesn't heal overnight. I had spent years thinking Vanessa was my person. The one who had my back. The one who saw my worst moments and still chose me. And the entire time, she had been lying, pretending, living a second life behind my back while I stayed blind to it. And even though she was out of my world, that doubt, the whisper of what if it happens again, lingered. But the difference now? I wouldn't let it define me. A month passed. Then two. I kept moving forward. I reconnected with friends, threw myself into work, traveled just because I could. For the first time in years, I didn't have to run my decisions by anyone. Didn't have to consider someone else's schedule, their wants, their expectations. And I liked it. No, I loved it. But the past has a way of showing up when you least expect it. I was at my lawyer's office when it happened. The final meeting. I sat across from him, hands relaxed, feeling more at peace than I had in months. Tell me this is the last time we'll have to talk about her. He smirked. It is. Divorce is finalized. Paperwork is done. You're free, Eric. Free. The words settled deep in my chest. Good. He leaned back in his chair. She walked away with nothing, just like we planned. You should have seen her face when she signed the final documents. I exhaled slowly. She thought I'd break. She did, he agreed. She waited for you to change your mind, to reach out, to let her back in. I met his gaze. She never really knew me at all. He chuckled. Guess not. I stood, shaking his hand. Thanks for everything. Anytime. I walked out of that office feeling lighter than I ever had. That night, I got one last message from her. I wasn't expecting it. I figured she had finally accepted the reality of her choices. But as I sat in my car, phone glowing in the dark, there it was. Vanessa, I just signed the final papers. I guess this is really it. I stared at it, not because it hurt, not because it made me second-guess anything, but because it meant nothing to me. A year ago, I would have agonized over this moment. Would have gone back and forth, questioning if I made the right choice. Now I barely recognized the person who once loved her. I typed one word, "Me good," and then I blocked her number. For good. I wasn't looking for a fresh start. But as I sat there, phone silent, future wide open, I realized something. I had already found one.